Welcome to the secret sauces and savvy of American barbecue and grilling. During the next 30 minutes, you're going to discover a variety of techniques that make America's favorite backyard activity so delicious to so many people. Our guide on this mouth-watering journey will be Dr. Rich Davis, a barbecue master of the highest order. After a successful career as a medical doctor and child psychiatrist, Rich turned a lifelong love into a full-time profession. His search for great barbecue has taken him across the country and inspired him to create a custom line of prize-winning masterpiece barbecue sauces, all with the added initials KC in honor of his hometown. When he's not appearing on television shows or writing any number of articles or even books on the subject, you can usually find Rich doing what he loves best, preparing great barbecue.
In parts of this tape, we'll be talking about things scientific like how many inches from the fire, how many minutes we're going to cook, but these tips and secrets are really part of the art of barbecuing. Learn them well and you can barbecue as well as anybody you'll ever know.
Before Rich reveals his secrets to the art of charcoal cookery, let's run through a list of our destinations. Each topic will be identified by a color and a number. After you've watched our whole half hour the first time, you'll be able to use their corresponding symbols to relocate a particular section, the same way you use the index and page numbers in a cookbook. The recipe section, for example, will give you a first-hand look at some how-tos and cooking secrets that guarantee great results from your grill. And at the end of this tape, you'll find a video clearinghouse called Resources. This section has lots of information, including a library of valuable books on the subject for adding even more to your grilling and barbecue savvy. And don't feel bad if you don't know the difference between those two techniques. You're not alone.
There's a difference, but...
As far as I'm concerned, grilling is when you place, let's say, a hamburger actually on a piece of metal.
Well, a grill is like a grill. Barbecue, you use an open flame.
Barbecue is with coals underneath and some ventilation up through.
For barbecuing, it's actually dripping between the...
No, I really don't know. I do love to barbecue. I really do.
You know, there really is a difference between barbecuing and grilling, and I want to point out the highlights of that. Grilling, in a way, is kind of like pan frying. Barbecuing's a little bit more like roasting in a slow oven.
Rich grilled these inch-and-a-half thick steaks by quickly searing them first and then cooking them and turning them for 5 minutes on each side over a hotbed of charcoal. On the other hand, he barbecued these ribs for 6 hours at a low temperature of 200 degrees. That may sound perfectly straightforward to you, but the difference has puzzled chefs of the world for centuries. The confusion began when explorers came to the New World and found Indians from the Caribbean islands to our East Coast preserving their meats and fish by smoking them. They used a wooden frame that the Spaniards called a barbacoa. The French called it barbe-à-queue, which meant something different, from beard or head to tail, as in whole hog barbecue. Before long, eating out, as in outdoors, was a favorite way for politicians, church groups, or just about anybody to get together for fun or function. As it spread from region to region, barbecuing began to take on different characteristics. People in the Carolinas developed the open pit method, still popular there today. Virginia made the smokehouse a local trademark. And Texas favored closed pit cooking to seal in the flavors that charcoal provided. And speaking of charcoal, let's talk about where it came from. Long ago, humans discovered that charred wood actually burns better the second time around, hotter, with less smoke, and depending on what kind of wood it is, at a more even temperature. Unlike chunks of charred wood, today's most common form of charcoal is a human invention called the briquette. The man who invented it was none other than that devotee of efficiency, Henry Ford. By combining a dash of research with a dose of manufacturing technique, he turned scrap wood into a source of fuel that yielded long, steady heat. But at heart, Ford was an automaker and wound up passing his black gold on to a partner named Charles Kingsford, who proceeded to turn what had been an acquisition into an all-American hobby. In fact, it was the advent of charcoal briquettes in the 50s that made hot coal cookery an institution among folks and families everywhere.
The kinds of charcoals that we have set up here are a little bit different. You'll notice the way they're built for fires. These are your standard briquettes made from oak or hickory. They're great hardwoods for barbecue or grilling, either one. This fire's been built to the one side here so that we can use the barbecue later on with a hood on this. Have a small fire on this side, and we'll be placing the meat over here. You notice here we have the lump charcoal, and it's great for grilling because of the very hot temperatures that we use. We're going to spread that out for grilling steaks and other kinds of things like chops and hamburgers. This is a new kind of briquette also. You'll notice that this has the mesquite wood pressed right into the hardwood briquette. As a result, you don't have to add wood to the fire. That's great for grilling, and you can also do barbecuing with it. So with all these varieties available today, why don't you go on down to your grocery store and try some of these, and let's get started on a great barbecue.
In determining how much charcoal to use, whether you're cooking 2 hamburgers, 4 steaks, or enough for a whole party, measure the surface area of your food, plus 1 inch on all sides, make your charcoal 1 layer thick, and then mound it into a pyramid. If you're going to be barbecuing for hours, add coals every 45 minutes to 1 hour. Now comes the hard part, how to light all this without endangering you or your guests. Rich has a few surefire starter tips you may not have thought of.
Other than lighter fluid, there are a couple of good ways to start your barbecue fire. One of them is with the electric fire starter. This is a simple unit that you lay on top of the bed of charcoal, plug it in, then you take the rest of the charcoal, mount it on top, turn on the electrical unit then and wait about 15 or 20 minutes and you'll have a great bed of charcoal. Another easy way is to use the chimney fire starter. This is probably the least expensive way of all. In the bottom you have newspapers. This top 2/3 you have your charcoal. All you have to do is simply light the newspapers at the bottom. Once that's lit and going, wait about 15 minutes and you'll notice that the charcoal is turning red. As soon as it's red-white, simply dump it back in and you have a fire ready to go for any kind of a grill or a barbecue. Now that the coals are ready, and you can tell that by the beautiful gray color, we're going to talk about 3 different ways to use them for barbecuing and grilling. The first way, I'm going to pour these charcoal briquettes out and use them for grilling steaks. I'm going to spread them out evenly so that we can sear the steaks. And then I'm going to take this unit here and put the little briquettes over on the right side so that we'll have one side for cool, we'll have one side for much hotter. When we get through with the searing the steaks, we'll turn them over and finish the cooking. This fire, on the other hand, is for barbecuing. You'll notice this is a much smaller fire over here, and we're going to place it to one side because after we put the grill on here, we're going to put the meat on the opposite side from the fire. So you have the heat source here, you have your meat over here, and with the lid on the top, you can maintain that temperature at about 200 degrees.
Most grill enthusiasts add one more ingredient to their fire, wood, to impart a delicious smoky flavor on whatever they're cooking. You'll find some of the varieties to choose from listed in our special resource section.
Whatever kind of wood you do use, you can usually buy it in 3 different cuts. Over here we have wood that's been made into sawdust. It's perfect for grilling, and you'll get almost instant smoke. Perfect for flavoring steaks and hamburgers. You can also use chips. They're great to put on a hot grilling fire, and they'll last a little bit longer than sawdust, and it'll take 3 or 4 minutes, and then you'll have some great smoke once again. On the other hand, the big chunks you see here have been soaked in water about 24 hours. That's so that you can put them on the barbecue unit and not lift the lid up so often. As a result, you can get delicious smoke flavor as long as you barbecue, and you only have to add these about every hour.
Unlike fish or fowl, which are most often bought whole, cuts of meat require a bit of explanation. And who better to consult with than the pickiest of all meat professionals, a first-rate butcher like Lloyd Miglio.
We're here at the California Meat Company to show you the finest cuts for grilling and barbecuing. Here is the side of beef, which is like my side right here. This is the round. This is the loin, which has the tenderest cuts. This is the rib. This is the chuck. This is the brisket. And this is the plate.
As Lloyd explains it, meat that comes from the loin is the most tender and best for grilling. Popular beef steaks and chops come from the loin. From here we get the T-bone, porterhouse, club steaks, New York or Kansas City strip steaks, and filet mignon. The most tender cuts of pork, lamb, and veal also come from the loin. The best grilling cuts are the familiar chops from this area. When we speak of pork, we refer to pork chops. With lamb, we have loin chops, and we use the term cutlet when we talk about veal. The sirloin, just to the rear of the loin, also produces excellent steaks, which are known as the top sirloin and sirloin steaks. The sirloin portion of pork is generally sold as part of the loin, while that of lamb is sometimes left attached to the leg. After the loin and the sirloin, the next big areas of the animal for tender cuts are the rib and leg portion. The leg section, known as the round in the case of the beef, and sometimes fresh ham in the case of pork, has several different muscles that vary in tenderness. The best of these make good brochettes and kebabs. When it comes to barbecuing, especially Kansas City style, pork ribs are always on the menu. There are three basic cuts of pork ribs: the country style back rib that is cut short but still meaty, the meatiest and most expensive loin back rib, and spare ribs, which, when trimmed of gristle, is called a St. Louis cut. Next to the specific cut of the rib, the weight of the whole slab determines the meatiness and the price. The smaller the rib, like those 2 pounds and down, or 2 and down, the meatier your rib will be. Beef ribs for barbecuing are referred to as short ribs and beef backs, a favorite barbecue treat in Texas. Beef brisket is also an excellent meat for barbecuing. The long cooking process helps break down its tough texture. Leave the fat on while it cooks. It acts as a natural baste. Whatever meats you toss onto the grill, they'll normally taste better when soaked in a liquid marinade or prepared with a dry marinade of spices, commonly referred to as a dry rub. The purpose of a marinade is to moisten or flavor the food and, in some cases, tenderize it with an acidic-based liquid. Dry rubs lock in moistness and provide a crispy skin. Another way to enhance the flavor of your food is with liquid smoke, made naturally from simply burning wood and filtering its smoke through water. Marinades shouldn't be confused with barbecue sauce, which is applied at the end or during the last half hour of the barbecue and cooking process. Barbecue sauce is as diverse as the regions and personalities it represents. There are sweet tomato-based sauces in the Middle South, tart mustard or vinegar types from the Carolinas, peppery, spicy hot Southwestern versions, and Orient-inspired soy, ginger, garlic sauces from the West Coast. Wherever your sauce comes from, you'll want to check its label. All natural ingredients, such as tomato concentrate, not food starches or gum, ensure that you're buying the finest sauce for your prize-winning recipes, which, by the way, Rich is going to share with you now.
So, let's start with grilling. As you can see, these strip steaks are out, KC strips or New York strips. Let me show you how to doctor these up so they'll really taste great. I'm going to use 3 simple ingredients here, and all they do is enhance the beef flavor. No garlic, no herbs, plain rich beef flavor. So take a little Worcestershire sauce, spread it on, rub it all over very nicely with your fingers, and really get gooped up good, because the next one's going to be a little bit thicker. This is a beef extract. This happens to be BV liquid, as it's called. All this does, again, is enhance that rich beef flavor. These are truly delicious, absolutely delicious. And the final ingredient is some cracked pepper. Sprinkle that generously on both sides. The reason for these sauces is simply to give you the kind of beef flavor that you get with a great aged piece of beef like this. Notice the marbling? Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We're going to let that stand for about 10-15 minutes, maybe 20 or 30 at the very most, and then we're going to take it out and put it straight onto the grill. It'll be ready to go. We're going to take our KC strip steaks, lay them on that hot grill. You can hear them searing already. These are well trimmed of fat. There's enough on here in this kind of a hot fire, though. You'll probably have some flaming up. Some people like that charred flavor. These steaks will probably cook for anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes on the first side. Then we'll turn them over, do the same on the opposite side. If you like them rare, you'll probably take them off in about 4 or 5 more minutes. If you like them medium, you'll leave them on an extra 3 or 4 minutes. Well done. You're going to have to eat someplace else today. Don't these look delicious? And they're going to taste delicious when we get through putting these on the grill. This is the simple shrimp recipe we talked about. It's going to have a few veggies, mushrooms, green peppers, cherry tomatoes. Alternate them on the skewer with the shrimp, and let me give you a couple of hints how to do that so that they won't end up in the fire. With a square skewer like this, the foods tend not to rotate, so they're the very best. They're better than the round ones. If you use a round skewer, use 2 of them parallel and the food won't fall into the fire. Another tip is, when you're going to put vegetables through this, you have to put them on quickly, like so, and when you do, they won't split. Same for the green pepper. Shrimp probably needs 2 sides so that it will not spin, and push on firmly, and you've got it made. Those skewers now are ready to go, and what we're going to do is baste those with a little lime butter. Nothing more than a half a cup of butter, squeeze in the juice of an entire lime, and you've got a very simple, nice little basting sauce here that we'll put on right now. And when we're through basting with this, I'm going to put a little salt and pepper on this, and that's all that we're going to do to put these on the grill. I'm going to tell you how to make an elegant sauce that'll go with this, and it'll complement the lime butter that we've been basting in. That sauce is made out of nothing more than honey, some kind of a mustard, in this case a Dijon, and lime juice. And the proportions are 1/3 of each. When we take these off of the grill then, all we're going to do is take some toasted sesame seeds and sprinkle it across that, serve it with the sauce at the table, and you have a very, very elegant, delicious, very low-calorie grilled food. These are the shrimp kebabs. We have the lime butter already on them. They're ready to put on the grill, and these cook just a very few minutes. Shrimp is a delicate seafood, needs to only cook a couple of minutes probably on each side. With the way we've arranged them here, after a couple of minutes, we're going to turn those over and serve them quickly. If you need to, you can parboil some of the vegetables like the onions here. Most of the time, they're great directly on the grill. Actually, the green peppers, things like mushrooms, are perfect just the way they are. These kebabs are colorful, they're delicious, and your friends are going to love them. What's America's favorite barbecue dish? Barbecued ribs, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. This particular cut of rib is the spare rib. If we took the back side off and cut it nice and evenly this way, it'd be called a St. Louis cut, or maybe a Kelso cut. To do barbecued ribs, we're going to put on what's called a dry rub. You can make that at home very easily yourself in just a few minutes by mixing 4 ounces of sugar, 1 ounce of black pepper, 1 ounce of paprika, 1 ounce of salt, 1 teaspoon of turmeric, and 1 teaspoon of onion powder. Mix those together well with a fork so it'll stir up nice and evenly. And then all we're going to do is take the dry rub, as it's called, sprinkle it very generously all over both sides of the spare ribs, or if you like the best rib of all, you can even get a loin back rib. Another thing that's important with ribs is that the smaller the rib, probably the meatier, and hence the higher the price. Once we have this well coated very generously, we're going to take these out to that barbecue unit that's got the perfect fire going now, just about the right temperature of 200. We're going to place those on there, and we're going to leave the fat side up. You don't have to move ribs when you cook them either. You don't have to turn them. Simply put them in there, let them bake fat side up, and when you're through with that, you're going to have a delicious barbecued rib smoked about 4 to 6 hours. You can get great barbecued ribs in Memphis, Kansas City, Texas. We're going to show you how to do it in your own backyard. Good old traditional barbecue, fire source on this side, barbecued ribs over here. Notice that we've left the fat side up. We'll put the lid on, smoke these about 5 or 6 hours, and at the very end of that process, we're going to take some barbecue sauce and baste them for about the last 30 minutes, and this is what you're going to see. Absolutely delicious barbecued spare ribs. Chicken is a delicious food done in the barbecue unit. In fact, I think it's so delicious, this recipe doesn't call for a single thing but roast chicken, a little salt and pepper, rubbing it with peanut oil, and possibly a little sauce at the end. So all you have to do is take a 3 or 4 pound fryer like this, pat it dry, simply sprinkle salt all over, inside the cavity as well, on the back. Same thing with pepper, just a little extra spice, all sides of the chicken. And when we're through with this, we'll take a little bit of peanut oil, rub it generously on all sides to help keep the chicken nice and moist. And when that's done, we're going to put it on this spit, put it on the unit outside that's ready to go at about 200 degrees. Going to put on some nice hickory chips so it'll be smoking. Tighten it up so it won't slide. The last thing in preparing it, take a string, tie the drumsticks together, tie the wings together, make sure it's well balanced so it'll turn evenly. Take it outside and cook it for about 3 or 4 hours at a low temperature with a lot of great smoke. Now we have the chicken beginning to barbecue. You'll notice that we've put string around the wings, holding it close to the body. We have the drumsticks tied nicely so they'll not fall toward the fire. And the chicken is well balanced. The next thing that we notice is the fire below has a rim to it on the outside, but directly underneath the chicken we have a pan. That's to pick up the drippings that you can probably hear as the fat drips into the aluminum pan. If it were not for that, of course, the fat would drop on the charcoal and you'd have all kinds of flame and you'd have charred chicken on the outside and it'd be too rare in the middle. So we have the fire ready to go. The last thing we're going to do now is add the wood chunks that will provide that great smoke flavor for this barbecued chicken. We'll put these on 3 sides to provide just the right amount of smoke. It'll go with this. When that's done, we're going to close the unit up, allow it to smoke for 2 to 4 hours, depending upon how long you can wait, and we're going to have a great barbecued chicken. We've been talking about grilling and barbecuing. Let's talk about using that great water smoker. A water smoker is a way to get heavy concentrations of delicious smoke flavor. Trout, beautiful trout, easy to smoke, a little bit of salt on the outsides, and put them on the water smoker the way they are. The smoke flavor and the tender meat come through beautifully when they've been smoked 3 or 4 hours. Nothing else is needed for delicious smoked trout. This is not barbecued, it's the water smoked trout. Turkey, very simple to do. We've simply prepared this turkey ahead of time. The recipe is simple. It's a 1/3 cup of sage, a 1/3 cup of poultry seasoning, a 1/6 cup of salt, 1/6 cup of pepper. Rub that inside, perhaps a little bit up under the skin like we've done here to give good flavors. And we're going to put some of those seasonings up inside to give a nice flavoring to this all over. A little bit on the outside then, another little bit of therapy here while we put on all the great stuff. And when that's all done, we're going to brush that with peanut oil, put it outside on the water smoker, and a turkey this large, 10 to 12 pounds, probably is going to smoke anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. If you're in doubt, use the meat thermometer and you'll know when the turkey's done. You do not put dressing or a filling in these, by the way. You want to make sure that this is left empty so you'll get good smoke flavor and not have a dressing that's not really heated enough. This is a low temperature water smoke cooked turkey. You'll never taste a better one.
To prepare your water smoker, start by placing the hot coals and wood chunks in the bottom compartment. Then cover the heat source with the water pan. Once it's filled with water, the steam will provide moisture throughout the cooking process. You may also add seasonings to the water for extra flavor. The grill goes on top. Put your food on the grill, cover it, and don't forget to add more wood and charcoal every 45 minutes.
And now for that delicate smoked fish. Peanut oil, salt is all that we have. Putting it on the water smoker in a basket so it will hold together nicely. And we're through. About 3 or 4 hours later, you're going to have a delicious pair of smoked trout as delicate as you've ever tasted. Now all that's left to do is to smoke the turkey on the water smoker. The fire's going, the chunks are in, the steam's coming up, and in about 10 to 12 hours, you're going to have a good-looking turkey just like that. And it's going to be probably one of the most delicious birds you've ever tasted in your life.
It's good to know what you'll need and what you might want to have on hand when you light up your fire, and you'll find plenty to choose from at almost any good-sized hardware and department store in the country. The first piece of equipment you're going to invest in is a cooker, and that's where your options begin. In the 50s and early 60s, when barbecuing and grilling were catching on as backyard hobbies, these grills were the standard. The function of any kind of open cooker, though, is grilling, not barbecuing. That's probably why covered cookers have become the new standard in recent years. With their tops off, they grill food about as well as their unshielded counterparts. But with the lid on and vents adjusted to produce a controlled flow of air, this unit lets you barbecue like a pro. Now, this model is designed expressly as a smoker, best for slow cooking foods such as game and fish, and flavoring them with your favorite woods. These units automatically baste and bathe foods in the moisture collected inside. And this is at the high-tech end of the cooker spectrum. It's fueled by an attached tank of propane gas and is equipped with lava rocks to be used instead of charcoal. These units are difficult for barbecuing and are usually scoffed at by hot coal purists. Still, they may be right for you. In the world of barbecuing and grilling, there's even more to buy than might first meet the eye. You'll want a basting brush for slathering on your marinades and sauces, a long-handled fork to use when cutting meat, And don't forget the value of a long-bladed spatula either. They're great for turning and lifting items off the grill. And when your company's clamoring for kebabs, you'll need skewers. To help rotate foods on your grill, get metal ones that are square when viewed face on. Here's an inexpensive item you could learn to love. This folding metal holder is ideal for turning delicate items, as well as moving them between warmer and cooler areas atop your fire. Speaking of temperatures, standard meat thermometers, or this instant read type, offer the easiest way to determine how hot your food is. If you want to maintain a steady heat over a long period of time, use an oven thermometer on the grate of your grill to check your temperature. This wire brush is for swabbing down your grill before it has a chance to cool. Hot coals demand protecting your hands with fire and heat-resistant materials, so an essential item for any barbecuer is a pair of heavy-duty mitts like these. And it's not a bad idea to have a simple water-filled spray bottle on hand to put out any flare-ups from over-hot greases. While many of us use long-handled forks for this job, Rich warns that a piece of meat full of holes will quickly drain of its juices and suggests that you use tongs for moving everything from food to briquettes. Have you ever wondered how to get under a grill once it's hot? This KC Masterpiece Flip-It Grill makes it a cinch. This handy KC Masterpiece scraper helps keep your grill looking new. Use it after cooking when the grill's still warm but not hot. You can spend anywhere from relatively little to a lot on barbecuing and grilling accessories, but the fun of it is how much you spend is pretty much up to you. This is one hobby that doesn't require a large investment before getting started. Welcome to the Resource section, a catalog of information to help further your barbecue and grilling skills. You may want to add one or more of these classics to your cooking library. All About Barbecue, Kansas City Style by Shifra Stein and Rich Davis. The Barbecue Book by Gail Duff. Barbecued Ribs and Other Great Feeds by Gene Volz. I'm glad I ate when I did because I'm not hungry now. Text by Caleb Pirtle III. Recipes by Sam Higgins and Friends. Barbecue and Smoke Cookery by Maggie Waldron. Kingsford's Best Barbecues from the Kingsford Company. Fire and Smoke by Maggie Waldron. The Sunset Barbecue Cookbook. Betty Crocker's Barbecue Cookbook. Finger-lickin', rib-stickin', great-tastin' hot and spicy barbecue by Jane Butel. Barbecue from the Reynolds Wrap Kitchens. Home Book of Smoke Cooking by Jack Slay and Raymond Hull. The Ideals Barbecue Cookbook by Mary Jane Finsand. Outdoor Cooking from the Time Life Books. The Grilling Book by 8 Quart Sinus with recipes by Jay Harlow. Grill Book by Kelly McCune, Thomas Ingalls, and David Barish. Hot Off the Grill, a Better Homes and Gardens book. And here's a list of catalogs and stores featuring a wide range of outdoor cooking equipment and accessories. Here's a list of several woods and their recommended cooking methods. If you need more information about the cuts of wood to use, just turn back to the wood section, number 4, earlier in the tape.